have you heard all this crazy stuff that's going on with Musk? His stock has plummeted 48% since Trump took office. Cybertrucks and different Tesla cars are being put on fire and being vandalized in dealerships. And at the same time, there's all these cyber attacks now on X. To me, the idea of being like mentally tough and mentally resilient during times like this, I think is something that we all need to obviously work on. If we were to be performance coaches for Musk right now, what advice would we give him to like stay the course and stay the mission?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes up for me is...
Hey, and welcome to the Jason Forrest Show. I'm with my wife, Mary Forrest, and today we are talking about so many cool things. First thing we're talking about is Elon Musk. Man, he is just like fighting the war on all fronts right now. Like his stock is plummeting. We got fires happening on his Teslas and vandalism, all kinds of crazy stuff. X has been cyber attacked, and so like, how does that guy like stay calm? How does he like stay focused on his mission? And so today we're going to talk about like one of the coolest things ever is like if you're a small business owner, if you're a salesperson, and you want to figure out like how do you stay mentally tough when like you're fighting the war on all fronts? Well, today's episode is really all about that. At the same time, we're going to talk about like retail sales and how it's like plummeting right now, and how do you take advantage of that? If you're a small business owner, and like how do you create an opportunity on this kind of crazy time in retail sales? We're talking about that and so many awesome things. Mary, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Mary, have you heard all this crazy stuff that's going on with Musk? All right, so I couldn't even imagine myself being in his shoes right now. Like he's really an inspiration for me because if you think about it, his stock has plummeted 15% since Monday and 48% since Trump took office, all because he's obviously starting to help him. At the same time, recent news came out and said that there's actually like Cybertrucks and different Tesla cars that are being like put on fire and being vandalized in dealerships. So I'm sure people are kind of, I couldn't imagine the employees of having to work there. And at the same time, there's all these cyber attacks now on X. So really Musk is being hit by all directions. And so what I thought would be really interesting is, one, I want to hear your perspective on that as just as a small business owner. You and I are both small business owners, and we're under attack a lot of times. We're under attack, not at the level that he's under attack, but we obviously have situations sometimes where our business is not where it needs to be. There's obviously certain kind of problems, and to me, the idea of being like mentally tough and mentally resilient during times like this, I think is something that we all need to obviously work on. And so first of all, I'm curious what your perspective on this is, and then I want us to kind of talk about if we were to be performance coaches for Musk right now. He can call us if he wants, but if he wants to, so what advice would we give him to like stay the course and stay the mission?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes up for me is, I mean, the silver lining for everyone else like us, except for Elon Musk, is we have this now anchor or basis of comparison, in the words of Blaine Wrench, against how bad it could be. No one's setting our office on fire. Like, it makes you look at your own problems and go, okay, my problems really aren't that big. It's not that big of a deal, whatever I'm going through right now. So I think it is interesting to watch how he's going to handle it, because I think that can be an ongoing topic of if he is able to persevere and come through this. I started grinning as you were talking about this, because I remember years ago, this is like before Trump's first presidency. Do you remember that you used to use Donald Trump as an example of being able to handle a lot of stress and having that much in debt or going bankrupt? And he was the anchor of like, can you handle and come back up from where you are? And now fast forward, someone here connected to him, but it's not Trump today. It's Musk. So I think for one, it always helps us to know that everything else that we're going through is not as big of a deal of that. And I've also heard it's not just the dealerships, it's people's personal cars are being attacked.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, their cars in their driveways or in parking lots are being now not set on fire like that, but keyed and damaged and things as well, which is just crazy to me. But for him right now, what would I would say is I'm almost thinking back to his own words. When he was buying Twitter, now X, I remember people saying, you could be losing billions of dollars right now. Like it could just be gone and done. And it was remarkable to see how cool he was in that situation. I would not be cool in that situation, where he said, if the money's gone, the money's gone. I did what I knew I needed to do. And so, regardless if you think it was a good decision for him or you like what he did with X, that mentality in itself of I'm doing what I believe is right and what I believe that I should do, what if we all behaved that way? What if we all acted every single time with every customer, with every interaction, with every vendor as I can stand behind it, whether I win or I lose, whether I made money or I lost money, whether people love me or hate me, I did what I believed was right and what needed to be done. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that is pretty. It makes me think of something I would advise him to say, and that's constantly go back to your why. So constantly go back to what is. It's not about, like, for him. It's not about he doesn't really care. It's not about the money for him, right? It's about like the purpose and the mission and the calling that he's really on. And so it's like constantly reminding yourself, like, what really is that? And I would say being very clear on that. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs and as salespeople and as leaders, I don't think we spend that time doing that. Like, I know, like today, for example, I did I had a leadership mindset kickoff webinar, seminar class with like 90 different leaders were on there. It was amazing. And as you know, one of the exercises we take them through is for them to figure out like their compelling vision, right? So what kind of leader are they really wanting to be, and what do they want people to say about them, and where did that come from? Did that come from, and I went around and actually asked each person. I said, we all got into leadership for one of three reasons. It's either one, someone kind of told us we'd be a great leader, or number two is that we saw someone else be a great leader and we wanted to kind of emulate them and go, I could do that. Or number three is we rebelled and we experienced really bad leadership and we wanted to kind of rid the world of bad leadership. And so those are the three ways that we all are kind of called into leadership. And so I went around and asked each person, are you a leader today because someone said you should do this? Or are you a leader today because you saw someone else do it and you want to be like them? Or are you a leader today because you rebelled? But it was interesting for each person to have their own, that was their origin story of this was their thing. And so I said, okay, you need to live by that. So now that you understand your origin story, now you want to pour fertilizer on that, and you want to grow that into something else. So what about that leader that you were emulating? Do you want to continue? What's the legacy that you want to continue? You want to improve on? And then the flip side is why did that person tell you that you should be a great leader? And one person, of course, said, well, because people were already following me. I was already a salesperson people were following. And so they said, you should just have the title now to go with your influence. I'm like, that's phenomenal. That's one of the best ways to be a leader, is to be a leader by influence first. And then, of course, add the title. And then most people, I would say majority of the audience of the almost 100 leaders in the room, majority of the audience said, they gave me all these bad examples of ineffective leadership. And they felt this internal calling to do the opposite. But I think that's an interesting perspective, is that people need to spend time on their mission and their why, and why am I really doing this? Because if they're not clear on that, then when the devil attacks them, in this case, this what's happening with Musk, I think there's some sort of spiritual warfare probably that's kind of attacking him. He's not clear on that. He's gonna let the external factors kind of take him down.
Well, I think that's brilliant. And I hope this is not, I think we all have a space where we get shaky and we start to question our why, or feel like we're going to go towards it. And I want to talk about that. But before, I am so curious, what is your origin story from, you shared all this from everybody else in the leadership class. Did somebody tell you should do it? Did you rebel? Or what's the other one? You had three. They told you should do it.
You rebelled, or you saw someone else be a great leader and you're like, oh, I want to do that.
You wanted to emulate them.
I want to emulate that.
Yeah. So which one is it for you?
So for me, mine was someone told me I should do it. So my quick story is that I was actually in new home sales, and I was in a kind of a trailer, a temporary sales center, and this man came in. And I took him through this, very detailed sales process, followed my sales process perfectly, and closed him several times. And he said, "Look, all right, I'm getting my checkbook out. I'm not gonna. I would buy from you, but I really don't need a house. I'm actually Bruno Pasquinelli. I'm the owner of this of your biggest competitor across the street. I've got two very senior, very experienced sales professionals that you're selling against. You have dirt out here in a trailer and nothing to see. They've got models and existing houses and a very established neighborhood. And now you're literally outselling them 3-1 with nothing to see. It's crazy." And he goes, "But now I understand why you're doing that and how you're doing that. And I'd love for you to become a manager for me and teach my team how to do what you did for me today, because I've never seen anything like this. So that was my origin story of me smoking the crap out of his salespeople, and he wanted me to like teach that skill set to other people.
Way to go, Bruno. I love that. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, good. I just thought that was really fun. Well, back to Musk and his hoping this isn't shakiness, but I think something that's really interesting is for every salesperson and every business owner to think about what's the number or where's the place that makes you start to doubt your process or what you do. And I know it grows over time, right? But I'm thinking about the first time that somebody came to us and said, we're going to give you $1 million, our first $1 million training deal. That was the first time that we didn't follow some of our processes. That we said, okay, well, for that amount of money, I know we typically do it this way, but you want to do it this way. We'll adjust a few things. And we adjusted things that we knew weren't exactly in our process. And we had great success with the client, but I know, we beat ourselves up on what we could have done if we had followed everything the way we knew it. And I think we learned a lot from that experience of, hey, we're not going to bend on what we do. So today, if somebody says, Mary, I like what you do and I really want you to come out, but I want you to do it this way, the answer is a very polite no, because I've got to stick to my why and why we're doing what we're doing and believing and also sticking to the process that we know is going to win. So I think it's interesting for people to think about, where is that space that makes them start to change who they are or question their why, and see how they can grow that and make that larger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And for our case, you're right. We really, in my case, as a leader at the time, I 100% was kind of drawn, the siren in my life was kind of drawn to the revenue of that and like the big label, the big logo of that client. And I wasn't focused on my personal values and what really mattered most. And so from a practical application perspective, something I think is so important and that everyone can kind of do right now in journal. Like, this is one of my most important questions I love asking people. I asked it today on the call as well. And that's that if you could live your life based upon one value, and on your like tombstone and your funeral, people always said, Jason Forrest or Mary Forrest or whomever like lived their life based upon this one value. Like, what's the value that you would say this is a meaningful life? Like, what is that for you? And so several people, of course, shared that answer. And I, of course, used it from a perspective of, once you find out their value, then you can connect their positive intention usually to their value. And then when you're coaching them or you're instructing them, then you can help them realize that the behaviors they're doing are in alignment with the highest value, or the behaviors they're doing are not in alignment with the highest value. And of course, then you put them in a therapeutic double bind or catch-22, and now they have to kind of choose their highest value over the behavior that they're kind of sabotaging themselves with. And so to me, like, that would be an advice that I would give Elon Musk is, if I was to coach him today, I would say, hey, so, close your eyes and tell me your highest value. Like, if you could live your life based on one value and people said, the one thing I love about Musk is blank, like, what is that value? And like, what is that? And then constantly go back and say, okay, are the actions and behaviors I'm doing right now, is it in alignment with that value or is it not? And as long as it's in alignment with that value, then you should be really proud of what you're doing, even though you have a lot of people that are very against you right now.
I think that's interesting, but I think it's also the exact same coaching that could be given to the people that are burning up the stores and the cars, which is, what do you want people to know about you? Like, what's the purpose of this? And if they say, well, the purpose is that I want fairness and equality for all people, well, then the easiest way is to show, okay, right here we have fairness and equality for all people. That's the value. Let's look at the behavior. The behavior is burning up cars and destroying dealerships, but there's a lot of people that affects. That affects the people that it's not just Elon. You're not hurting Elon Musk. I mean, there's people that work in that actual store, but there's also people that work in the factories to create those cars. There's people that work in the factories that create the parts that are going to go into the factories to create the cars. There are so many people that it affects. Is that fair to them? And when I can show both of those sides, and now they have to decide, I either have to not care about fairness anymore and keep burning up dealerships, or I have to go, wait, I want to be fair to all people, and I now have to change this behavior in order to stick to my value of being fair and kind to all people. And so it's interesting in all areas, from Elon down to the person that's, throwing the bomb, metaphorically, the same coaching will work.
It's the same coaching, and that's you're 100% right, and that's how we also help them today with unleashing their salespeople. Is that one of their top producers of this company I was working with, one of their top producers has like super crazy high conversion rate, like 8 out of 10, kind of like super high conversion rate. Yeah. However, like everything is a deal, right? Everything is everything's custom. Everything is like a change. Everything's something. And so she's like, how do I fix this? And we of course talked about, so then I of course coached her on the whole idea of, you got to find out her highest value. And of course her positive intention was she wants the contract. Like she wants the sale. And so I said, okay, we'll go deeper in that. What's the highest value? Figured it out. Well, her highest value is to be dependable and consistent. And so I was like, got it. So as soon as I figured that out, then of course the coaching was, well, help her realize the inconsistency that she's having and get her to admit the inconsistency she's having and the lack of dependability that she has with her customers and her colleagues and her peers. I said, have there ever been times where her customer, like she's over promising, under delivering, and her customer is like upset with her that she's not dependable, like what she said she's going to do, she's not able to actually deliver on. And she said it happens all the time to her. I said, perfect. Okay, so right now, like her highest value is being sacrificed based upon how she's actually acting as a salesperson. And so you need to like let her know that, and then ask her, does she want to change her behaviors and adopt a new strategy, or does she want to let go of that highest value, dependability and consistency?
I love that. So as soon as we bring to the forefront of the conversation the value the person has, all behaviors have to fall in alignment with it. It's when the values are hidden somewhere else that we can allow ourselves to do behaviors that are not in alignment with who we really are, what our soul and our heart and our spirit says that we are.
So what's your highest value?
So my highest value, I think, would be love. More, I think a more chunked down version, or more specific, my highest value would be devotion to things. So devotion to me is commitment with love. So am I to knowing and looking for what I love, and then committed to those things.
I love it.
Okay, so now you can coach me to do anything. There you go.
That's it.
Well, it's interesting talking about the retail stores and everybody that's affected. It's really interesting because one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the incredible shortage of retail salespeople. So it's very interesting that you were bringing up something that's about affecting retail salespeople in Tesla. So it's not just there, but just across the board, there is a shortage of them. And we can see that. But I know right now I hear and I experience not always the best right now experience at retail stores. I think you probably have some of those similar experiences right now as well. Would you agree on that? I was thinking about the other day we were walking into a store, which, well, this happened about a month ago. And then a couple of weeks ago, we went to that store. They have closing soon signs, which is very sad because we like this store. But we were walking in, and as soon as we walk in the doors, and I knew exactly what I was going to get. I was on a mission. And do you remember this? That the salesperson looks over at us and says, "We're closing in 6 minutes."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very upsetting.
I want to go and coach them right there at that moment. But then I'm also frustrated. And so what do? We just turned and walked out. Thought, okay, if I can't get a hello and a welcome, I'm not welcomed into the store. I'm not shopping here. So I wanted to look into that. So I had this experience.
Mary, all the research says that people don't want that anymore. People want AI. They want robots. They don't want human beings.
No.
Like talking to their humans. So it's interesting that you still want that. You're like, you must be like super old school in your approach here.
Yeah, granny over here. No, people don't want Terminators. They don't want Terminators selling to them. They want people selling to them. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So after this experience, I was like, okay, I want to go figure out like what's going on, because that's not a one situation. I've had a lot of these situations. Mary Jane and I went out, had a girls' dinner the other night. Then we went over and we went shopping, and we had clothes like over both of our arms, and we're walking around trying to find anybody in the store that will open a dressing room for us. Cannot find somebody that works there. And we had spent the entire time collecting clothing without ever seeing a salesperson in the store. And this is a store in a mall. So I mean, everything was open. And I was like, this is so fast. Like, what is happening right now? So I've done some research on it. So one, do you want to know how many open jobs there are right now in retail sales?
I'd love to know.
Do you want to take a guess?
I don't want to take a guess.
Oh, okay, fine. Don't play the game with me. Okay, so there are 340,000 open retail positions right now. Insane. So one, okay, immediately I know the poor people that are showing up are overworked. And we were really, remember how nice we were during the COVID lockdown times to restaurant workers? It was like whatever, like just whenever you get a chance, like do something. Okay, so it's kind of where we are now on the retail side. So we were like that with restaurants. We gave a lot of grace to our restaurant workers because we were so happy that they showed up to work. We need to feel that way about our retail professionals right now because of how many are not there. Okay, so it's like, why is this happening? What's going on? So there's a couple of things. One, gig work is taking it. This is like your Ubers and all of that. There's also all the remote work and remote customer service jobs. It's taking people away from retail. Sad. Second, what you were talking about with Tesla, okay, not bombing places or setting them on fire or keying cars, but there's so much hostility from patrons is going up, or as they're called, the Karens. They're not being nice and want to talk to the manager or not good. Okay, so that's one of them. Then shoplifting, and this is actually also in alignment with what you're saying. Retail crime is up. We were talking about that already. And shoplifting, do you know how much shoplifting is up since 2019?
Tell me.
93%.
Wow.
So in 2023, and I cannot find, I've searched everywhere for numbers for 2024, beginning of this year. I cannot find them anywhere. So the last numbers I can find are from 2023, $40 billion worth.
Oh my gosh. So what are they saying is the reason?
Well, there's not really a lot of punishment.
Got it.
For it is what happened in 2020. Is all of a sudden it became socially acceptable to steal and to shoplift, and you couldn't get, you know, what I don't remember. I haven't looked it up in a while, but you had to steal like a great huge amount for it to be even punishable. So it's
so the standard has been dramatically lowered as far as what's considered to be stealing. So you're not really stealing unless you're stealing $1,000 or whatever the number is.
Right.
Until then, you're not really stealing.
Right. And there's nothing, and just the feeling. And I remember, I mean, it's.
I wonder if God has that same number. I wonder if God's like, hey, you're fine. You're totally fine.
It's totally fine.
As long as it's over a certain amount.
Yeah. Don't worry about it then. It's totally fine. Probably in all areas, right? Yeah. All areas, it's just totally fine. Do whatever you want. I think that's in the Bible somewhere. So the ones that are showing up are overworked, but something I've heard you say over and over again is the warrior always finds the advantage. There's got to be an opportunity here. There has to be something. So I'm curious from you, if somebody is a sales professional, they're in retail right now, or they're looking to become a retail sales professional, or they own a retail store. So any of those areas, what could the opportunity be? Like knowing this, like this is what's going on right now. What is the opportunity? What's the advantage that you see for them?
It's great. Great question. The obvious advantage to me right now is you do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So for example, I mean, I was trained in retail sales, you know, back again, I'm 46. So that was 16. So whatever that is,
a lot of years.
And so I was trained to give like ridiculous customer service. I mean, I was trained to, you know, you greet them at the door and you ask them usually a binding question, which is kind of funny. So a binding question is, you know, are you looking for again, I was back in Banana Republic. So you would ask them a binding question of, you know, are you looking for something more casual today or something more going out, trendy, kind of fun? And so immediately they would say, looking for something more casual, just kind of, okay, no problem. And so they'd follow me, and you would just immediately like take them where you need to go. And then you would start to basically like give them amazing service. And then of course you would like, you know, immediately find out. So, you know, are you more comfortable in this size or this size? And you would start pulling sizes for them. You would grab the size. You know, if a person was ever holding something, no one was ever allowed to hold something themselves. You had to immediately grab the item. You were always like your personal shopper. You were always carrying everything for them. And then you immediately, of course, like started fitting room. I'll come back and take care of you. And you're always like offering them new things. I mean, it's just like, that was like the constant thing. So it sounds like they're missing that. It sounds like the retail stores today are not doing that. So if I was a retail store owner in today's world, I would basically go back to the old school. I would go back to, you know, 20 something years ago when, you know, we're going to give such an impeccable service that it's almost like weird. Like, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, these people are like really these people are like really attentive and they're really good at what they do, and it doesn't seem normal. That's what I would do.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard you talk about your retail sales days many times, but I've never heard you say that question that way, which is, are you more comfortable in this size or this size? That's a really smart way to talk about size, which is something that people don't want to really talk about. And also as a, you know, if you had a female customer, as a 16-year-old boy, I'm not real eager to tell you what my size is. So did you come up with that, or did they teach you that?
I mean, I had I don't really know. I mean, I had an amazing, I would say I gave up all my credit to Diana. I mean, she was my coach and my leader, and she went on to become the head of Hugo Boss. And so I learned probably all these little skills from her, but I mean, she would teach me, I mean, it was so many little skills that you would learn that was just like the right thing to say. I mean, of course, because you wouldn't want to say, you know, like, you look like a large, you know, like that. That's like, that would never.
You'd just turn around and walk right out.
That would never be good. Are you sure you're a large? It might be an extra large, right?
Yeah,
like, that'd be good. So you want to say that, but and then you would also do stuff like I mean, even like I would learn little techniques. Like I always worked in the female side. It wasn't all the time. It's just all of a sudden there was this like happy accident where normally they put the guys on the guy side and the girls on the girl side, and it's all of a sudden, you know, it was like Dallas Galleria, and one day the person who was supposed to be that section didn't show up that day, and so all of a sudden Diana was like, all right, you're in the ladies side. I'm like, how do I do this? You know, like, how do I sell to ladies? And then so she just basically kind of gave me these, you know, those kind of pointers to start kind of working. So number one, like, you know, keep them in the fitting room. Never let them leave. Never let them leave the fitting room with their own clothes back on unless they're buying something. Number two is every time that you bring them something, you always bust something out, because if a female ever feels that they've got like a reject pile and it's like the pile of clothes that are not good, they're like, bad shopping day, eject. And so like, never let them like feel like they're a loser that day. And then so you're always busting out, and then you always like keep the wins. And so you always like constantly are like showing them the wins, like, you're doing great. And like, you're like celebrate like how good they're doing and they're buying stuff.
You were a retail like coach.
Yeah.
You were a buying coach, not a shopper. You were a coach.
Yeah. And I'm just like a 16-year-old boy that doesn't really, just like, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. So I'm just like doing all these things, and I'm just like constantly bringing them new sizes. And then what I would do is they got to a point where, you know, they'd always like step out of the fitting room and they would like show me what they're wearing and they want my opinion. And so, of course, there's definitely times where I fumbled this one, you know, like, and
yeah, this is a very risky situation.
Oh, it's very risky because if you tell them the truth, then if you don't say it correctly, then obviously you're going to offend them and they're not going to buy something, even though you could be right. And if you tell them everything is great, then you look like every other salesperson that they know you're just full of it, right? And because not everything is great. Not everything works for them, right? And so I 100%, I would assume, said the wrong thing multiple times. And then, you know, Diana would coach me and show me the right thing. And so the right thing that I started saying at the end that dramatically helped was they would ask, you know, so what do you think about this? This is the right outfit. And I would say, you know what? I think I have a better outfit for you that would be more complimentary of your evening that you're trying to accomplish, or like the occasion you're trying to accomplish. So again, that was like the reframe. So you know what? I think I have a better outfit for you that would accomplish your goal more than what that one is, right? So, and I would like, let me go. So I would like bolt out of there. So again, I wasn't saying that they looked fat in the outfit or any of that kind of stuff. I would just say, I have a better outfit for you that I will bring to you.
Well, what a great thing for sales coaches today too, right? If you're a sales leader and you don't want to beat up the salesperson that's in front of you and tell them like, you just botched that terribly. Say, hey, I've got an even better way for you to say that next time.
Mm-hmm.
I have an even better way for you to handle that objection, which doesn't say what you did was bad, but makes somebody still feel strong. Because we need salespeople feeling big and bold and strong, because they got to go out there. They've got to be big and bold and strong constantly in order to be successful. So I like that. I think that still works even in what we're doing today.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not the you suck and let me tell you why approach,
which is not a bad approach all the time, but just maybe not 100% of the time.
We're not going to do that. But yeah, it's let me show you a better way to achieve the outcome, or a different way to achieve the outcome of what you're really desiring there. So yeah, so I mean that's it's so fun to like kind of do to look back on everyone's life and kind of figure out, you know, these things that you kind of learned along the way. But yeah, for me, I was very, very fortunate that that I had a great mentor when I was young and taught me some really cool things. Just some simple processes to follow and some simple kind of messaging and scripting that I could have said. I could have really messed up. I mean, I did mess up, but if I didn't have that, I mean, I could have kept telling, every girl that they're overweight and they need to not wear that. I'm like, whatever, that would have been not the right approach, right?
That would have been very wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and I think right now too, the other things that I'm getting is, I know we are encouraging our children to work in retail sales. We want them to have that experience and start to get that, get the knowledge that they get there. You had that knowledge working in retail. I worked in retail early on. I did not have the mentor that you did. And so I was not excellent at retail sales. Back then I was okay. But it's a great place to start honing your skills. I know something, especially for, in our house, sometimes, we might hear something about how what I'm learning in school just doesn't matter, or it's not going to be important to me, or what am I learning that's going to actually help me in the real world? And I think what's great is at 16, you were doing something that was going to help you in the real world. You didn't know that at the time, but you were. And so what a great way for us to encourage our youth, our kids, our nieces and nephews to go and be in retail sales, because they're going to get the real skills that are going to help them, whether or not they go into sales afterwards. Hopefully they do. I think everybody should learn sales and go into sales, but even if they don't, they're learning the skill sets and the language patterns that are going to help them be successful in whatever job they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And, it makes me think a lot about, again, kind of the metaphor of life with retail sales, because so often people have this kind of blanket statement, and that's, I just want to be left alone. I don't like salespeople trying to mess with me. Like I don't, I just want to be left alone. And that is just so far from the truth. Like I there's not a single human being. Like I'd love for some human being to challenge me on this right now. And I'm sure there are going to be people in the comments that are going to put their belief systems.
People love to challenge you in the comments.
They love challenging the comments, especially the Canadians. The Canadians really don't like me right now. So anyway, but because every single time I've ever talked to a person that's like, I just don't like salespeople, I want to leave. It's like, that's because you never had anyone great, but like if you could like get to the prize faster than it's taking you, like, wouldn't you want to just do that? Like, when you just want to get like, again, like who wants to go just like look around the mall for like 3 hours on a Saturday? Like, don't you have other things you rather do with your time? Like, so like, what's the prize you're trying to move towards at the very end? And if you could find some phenomenal salesperson that can get you there in 10 minutes, like, wouldn't you want that? And so I just think that's like an interesting perspective. And that to me is the great metaphor of retail sales, is that retail sales is this like very cool opportunity for every human being to like figure that out. It's like, wait a minute, the customer in front of me really does want me to lead, protect, and serve them. They really do want me to help them, even though everything in their body language and everything in their words are going to actually say, like, leave me alone, you asshole, right? Like, that's what's going to come out of their body language and their mouth. But we have as a salesperson have to be a little bit like Sheldon, and we have to like kind of not pay attention sometimes to those nonverbal cues, which we might need to talk about, because I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. We've been taught for so long, pay attention to the nonverbal cues. If they're smiling, they're buying. If they're leaning in, they're interested. And I mean, I'm kind of glad that, I don't know, maybe I got a little Asperger's in me. I'm glad that I like didn't see that stuff, because I mean, I know I had customers that said, I'm fine, leave me alone. And I'm like, follow me. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, and they'll right this way. And they just keep doing it. They'll follow you, even though they say they don't want to follow you, because they're afraid of conflict. So like, even though they said I'm fine, like they're not strong enough to know I'm really fine, leave me alone. Like, they're not, because if you like kill them with kindness and you're like act as if like you're helpful, then they're not going to be like, I would say like 99.9% of the human race, they're not going to be total jerks to you and say like, no, I really am serious. I don't need your help. I want to do this on my own. I want to be left alone. I want to like be in misery by myself for the next 2 hours. I don't need you to serve me. I mean, like, no one's going to do that.
Right. Well, and the people, if that's really what they want, you go to TJ Maxx, because you're like, who wants to walk around for hours? Well, sometimes I do, but you go to TJ Maxx. There's no shoppers there. You are the shopper. Like, that's what you're doing there.
Never in a million years will ever go in that store.
I know. You don't like the TJ Maxx. I love the TJ Maxx. Okay. But with nonverbal cues, exactly what you're saying is why I love phone sales. I love phone sales. And people are like, don't you know, we want to get on Zoom, or I want to see their body language. I want to see their face. No, I don't. No, I don't. You want to know why? Because when we're on the phone and I can't see you, I picture you like this, writing down things, high-fiving your neighbor, like doing a lot of fist pumps and getting super excited about everything I say. You're probably not doing that, but that's what I'm imagining in my head, because when I picture you doing that, I get more excited. And then I start loving what I'm doing more, and my day gets better, and I'm more on, and I'm able to be more bold. But most people's faces don't look happy. Most people's faces look really grumpy. And so if I have to be on Zoom selling somebody, then I have to see their face. And so then it takes a lot more of my imagination to see what I want to see out of their face, not what I don't want to see out of their face. So I love phone sales. I wish it was back to phone sales. I love Zoom for so many things, but I think it really has hurt our sales professionals some in the idea that now that we're giving even more meaning to what somebody's face is doing. And what I know is that when I'm really serious about a purchase and I'm really thinking about it, my face is like very serious because I'm seriously thinking. If I am smiling, I'm not that serious about it. I'm just kind of having fun and listening to your pitch and thinking you're cool, but I'm not really going to buy. So even though intellectually I know the opposite is true, typically, I still really like to see the smiles. I really like to think that people are taking notes and high-fiving with everything that I say.
Well, in a great kind of counter argument for people who are stuck on those nonverbal cues and stuck on that body language is there are certain people that they actually think better if they're doing something else. So, for example, like one of my best friends in the whole world, Steve, like he has a little bit of dyslexia, and so one of the things he'll always tell me and other people is like I have to be kind of doodling while I'm listening to you, because if I just listen to you, I'm not listening to you. If I'm listening, if I'm just giving you my presence and my attention, my mind is actually 1,000 other places. But if I can like doodle or like play, he like plays like Tetris and stuff. It's the weirdest thing, great thing. He's like, again, one of the richest guys I've ever met. And he like plays Tetris and other kind of stuff. He's like, if I can do that, I can actually pay attention to you. Isn't that crazy? So like, but that's an interesting kind of counter argument that, I mean, could you imagine how much that would mess with your head if you were trying to sell to Steve?
And he's playing Tetris.
Oh my gosh, you're like, this guy like totally doesn't give two shits about me, right? You know what I mean? Like he's like totally doesn't care about anything. And yet, like if he actually did listen to you, you would have like way less of a chance of actually communicating with him and actually getting your sale across the finish line with him, versus if you like let him play Tetris and you just like allowed him in his space to like do his thing, then he's actually paying attention and can make a wise decision on if he's gonna move forward with you or not. It's crazy.
Well, it's amazing how it goes back to me of how much our own mental toughness, and as a sales professional, staying on my game and being focused on what I'm saying, what I'm doing, am I giving my best, and not focusing on what am I getting back from you? Mm-hmm. Because I might be getting you playing Tetris, or I might be getting you looking real grumpy, or looking off into space, or doing something else. I mean, right now, I know a lot of people, they have multiple screens up, right? Most people are working from multiple screens. So one of the things I think is really interesting that I've been noticing is they're over here like looking to the side, and I'm like looking at somebody's profile the whole time. Like, this is really uncomfortable. And then I find out later the screen that I'm on is on this thing over here. So they think we're making eye contact, but we're not, because their camera's here, but I'm over here. And that's happening a lot. So as sales professionals, I think one of the things for us to know is that we are master communicators. We're thinking about these things. We're thinking about how does our face look to somebody else. We're thinking about our body language to somebody. We're thinking about our tone of voice. But most people, they're not thinking about those things because they're not educated in it. They're not skilled in it. They didn't have Diana when they were 16 to tell them the way to say something. They're just doing what they do. And so we can't assume that they know what we know and that they're treating us in a certain way because of something. But that takes so much mental toughness, and that takes so much embodiment of your own process to be able to stick to that and handle it effectively.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things you said I think is so key, and that's something I've been like really thinking about a lot lately, is just, again, the most successful people are just very internal versus external. And that's such an interesting concept that and to your point, it's like, if you want to be a master leader, if you want to be a master salesperson, a master influencer communicator, like you've got to constantly like pay attention to your own process. And like, so for example, like, you and I have both been doing these webinar launches lately, and sometimes we don't get the results that we're desiring. And so it's interesting because we need to stay focused on not the external result, but instead, like, did we enjoy ourselves? Like, did we enjoy what we were saying? Like, and that's a big thing that I'm always focused on, right? I know when I'm most in flow, and I know when I'm making the biggest impact is when like I'm actually like learning from what I'm talking about. And I know that sounds, I know people, you always laugh when I say that, but it's not that I'm like, it's just because when you get into a flow, you're literally letting like the spirit speak through you. So you're like connecting all the dots. So if you think about like ChatGPT, right? So you think of like AI. Well, the normal human brain, can, let's say like in my case, I read a book a week. And so that's a lot of books in 46 years. And I didn't start really doing that until I was like, let's say 21 or 20, but a lot of books. But a normal human brain can only probably retrieve, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 10% of that information anytime, so it takes a while to kind of pull it out. Now I work really hard on retrieving that information, and I feel like I do pull that stuff off pretty fast. However, that's hard for people to do. So you look at ChatGPT, and of course they can retrieve the information like instantaneously, like all like 100% information, like just like off the cuff, right? Okay. What's my point? My point is that like when I speak and I'm in the zone or I'm in flow, it's like I'm letting the spirit speak through me, which means I'm opening up, in my opinion, more of those references, right? Like instead of me just normally being able to, like if I'm in my head and I'm like speaking from my conscious self, then I'm only pulling out like 3 or 4% of like what I know. But if I can like get into flow and get into the zone, then I'm like channeling spirit, and I'm actually like unleashing, hopefully more 10, 15, 20, 30% of what I know. Like it's more of that information that's really coming out, which is interesting. And that's why I make the comment all the time that like, I know I had a great speech and I know I had a great talk when I learned something from what I said, because it's like, wow, I didn't really say that. That was like the connection of several things that I thought about in my life, and I like connected them all together. And obviously it was like some spirit, some like higher power that like connected that for me. And like, that's something new. That was like a new idea that came out. And like, that's pretty cool.
I love that.
I don't know where I'm going with that. Do you
know?
know?
I love it. I think for me, when I'm jumping on a seminar.
The intrinsic concept.
The intrinsic.
Okay.
Do you feel like you landed, or do you want me to?
I think so. I think that's that's the idea, right? Is that the most successful people, it's about intrinsic versus extrinsic. Like they're not focused on, I'm successful because of these outside rewards of these people that told me I'm successful. They're successful because of their own thing, which also loops back to Musk, which we can talk about in a second.
No, we're all the way back, full circle. Well, and what's interesting, I think right now as people are going through and thinking, really the question is, how do you know when you've done a good job? And sometimes we're going to answer with, I'm number 1 on the leaderboard, or my boss told me. And sometimes it's like, because I know I did a good job. So we can look at that in different areas of our life. I think one thing that's important to mention, and I've had this conversation multiple times this week, which is why it's top of mind for me. Because so many people that we work with are in family businesses. And so we're working with spouses, we're just like, we are. I'm working with parents and children, sometimes even grandparents and children and grandchildren, all working in the same company, cousins, uncles. And something that's really interesting, though, is that it doesn't matter how internal you are with your spouse or with your family, you will have external tendencies. And so it's good to break those apart and looking at it. So, okay, you talked about books. I wanted to bring up a book, but I don't want to stop you from taking this back to Elon again, if you have something.
Well, the only other thing I've been really thinking about, again, him, and we could spend a lot more time, talking about Elon Musk. I just think it's important that when people are, so we're going back to this again, Elon Musk is being he's fighting a war on all fronts. And I think so often, as salespeople, we fight a war on all fronts too. And we fight the war in the sense of, our boss tells us we're overpaid, or other people tell us we're overpaid, or people say the only reason why we're selling more is because of some circumstance that was in our favor, or our family member says, like, do you really have to miss nights and weekends, major holidays to do this job? Like, can't you get a real job someday? I mean, it's just like, the customer, of course, is fighting us. The prospects everyone's kind of fighting us, right? So it's like fighting a war on all fronts. And so to me, it's like, I think it's interesting, right? Because you can like really parallel kind of what Musk is going through. And it's like, how do we learn what he's going through and how do we apply that, to salespeople? And, I think the advice that I would give him and the advice that I would give salespeople is how can you use the resistance to actually strengthen you? So like, meaning like, how can you take the resistance and turn it not into something that depletes you, but how can you turn it into something that fuels you?
And do you think that's a learned thing? That's not something that you're either born with or not. That's something that we can learn and grow in.
I do. I think 100% we can learn and grow into that concept, because I think that's a psychological reframe that it's like this idea of like for example, what if, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but what if Musk, and I hope he's saying this. I hope I could talk to him tomorrow and say this. Hey Musk, can you tell you what's going on? So this is my phone. Look at my
I got you.
Okay. But it's like, like Musk, what if it's possible that like every single example that you're having right now of all of these things that are kind of attacking you, what if that's actually a sign that you're on the right track? Which is kind of interesting to think about, right? Because I mean, people who do great things, they have the most resistance. Like Martin Luther King or George Washington, or I mean, like our founding fathers, like, people who have the most, like Rosa Parks. I mean, there's like people who have the most resistance are like, it always turns out that for the most part, right? There's probably some situations where it's the case, but it seems like for the most part, Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus, I mean, like, God, like so many examples, right? Of like, they had the most resistance, and because they stayed the course, like hopefully they were paying attention to, well, maybe this resistance is actually saying that life's happening for me, not to me. And this is actually exactly what I need to like stay the course. And if I wasn't having resistance, maybe that just means that I'm kind of playing small and I'm doing something average. And because average people don't get any resistance at all.
That's fascinating. I need to sit with that for a little bit.
Okay.
But I think that, I think he should call you. I think it'd be a good conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a message. It's probably a message I need to hear myself, because it's tough. I mean, I think even myself, when we go through a lot of things, I mean, we have obviously one successful business, but I have created 1, 2, 3 unsuccessful businesses. so but it's just it's that message though, constantly of, maybe the more resistant. And again, like right now, the one business we have that's most successful is obviously our training business. And I mean, we are constantly fighting a war on all fronts with that training business, because we're trying to ignite the pride, purpose, and respect professional selling. We're trying to make salespeople, noble and honorable. We're trying to create disciplined sales warriors. We're trying to create sales managers that are coaches like Nick Saban. We're trying to say that training is not just a one-day event. Like, it's not just a love you and leave you one night stand type experience. It's about creating professionalism, dedication, and excellence. And that requires a program, that requires through time training. I mean, so like ever since we started this whole thing, over almost 15 years now, it's been nothing but resistance. Like, it's always resistance. But it's interesting because like our competition that's just doing one night stand trainings, that are just doing, like rah-rah speeches, that's just like making people feel good, but not actually giving people like skills, or they're teaching stuff that like everyone agrees with, but it's not actually what top producers do, think, and say. Like, there's no resistance.
Yeah. But I think what's powerful of that for us is that we made a conscious decision. I mean, I remember sitting down and saying, all right, we can go train what, 90% of people are doing, so that people feel really good in their mediocrity, and then we're going to get standing ovations. People are going to be really excited about it. Or we can go train what the top people are really doing, which means 90% of people are going to be uncomfortable listening to you. 10% of people are going to be like, yes, finally somebody that's saying the truth. And we made the decision. It was a conscious decision of, we were only going to train what the very top are doing, which means most people will be uncomfortable with what we ask them to do. We knew that. Like that was the decision. Now, that being said, how many people, I say something like that at the beginning, it sounds like, we're booed out of places, which is not what happens at all. In fact, we're very warmly welcomed. And so there gets to be definitely there's resistance sometimes at the beginning with a company. Sometimes, we've got companies right now, right, that are new to us, like in the last year, and there's no resistance anywhere in there, because I think the tide starts changing and you start bringing in people that are already looking for that. They're already ready. But it doesn't mean that we don't sometimes have that resistance, or they bring in new leadership that all of a sudden think salespeople are overpaid prima donnas and we need to get rid of them. And how can we cut commissions, and how can we slow down how we pay commissions? Just terrible things, not understanding it. So there's definitely still battles and wars to be fought, but it's interesting to see the way sometimes it begins to change. And there are, in the past, in our leadership training, it would start with the sales leaders, and then they would start having these like crazy success and this beautiful culture within the sales team. And the other departments are like, what is that? We want that too. And they'd be like, hey, can like these other departments, can they join leadership training? We're like, sure, like let's give it a go. But now we have companies that everybody joins at the same time at the very beginning because they want it from the beginning. It's just interesting, right? That didn't happen before. So there's definitely these shifts as we continue that change. But, you're right. Maybe if there was no longer resistance, then we need to find a different mission. Because if there's no resistance, they don't need a warrior, Jason. Only wars need warriors. And so it would be time to find a new company and a new career. If there's no resistance out there, then our job would be done. And we can hang up our hat and maybe take a vacation, and then we'd start something new.
100%. Yeah. So I think that's just that kind of completes the concept here. I think that, and so I feel a new video coming on right now. So on my Jason Forrest sales coach channel, I definitely want to do a video on kind of more of these elements of mental toughness. If I was to give advice to Elon Musk, I think that'd be a cool video, and I'll break down even kind of more of these concepts and give some practical applications people can do. But I think the biggest takeaway that I hope people have is that this whole concept that if you are having resistance, again, look at that as of whatever you're doing right now. Look at that as maybe you're actually on the right path. Like if you are getting a lot of people, that are like, I'm not sure you should be doing this, or how long are you really going to be doing this? Or, this whole commission thing, like straight commission, that's like a lot of risk for the family, or maybe you're a small business owner, same kind of thing. It's like all kind of the same stuff. Again, it's through the resistance that something great happens. Like I hate to use the kind of cliche, but I can, I guess, because my dad owns a jewelry store, but the greatest diamonds come from the pressure, right? I mean, it's the pressure. It's the pressure of the formation that actually creates the diamond. And so if it wasn't for like the resistance, then we'd never actually have the diamond. Again, I'm allowed to use that because my dad owns a jewelry store. Normally, I think it's too cliche.
Yeah. Tell us about the fish next.
I'm not doing it. Okay. So I'm complete. So I think I interrupted you. What were you?
No. I think this is a great like ending summary point. I think this has been, look, to use your words, I was fascinated today by the conversation, very interested. And you said things that were new for me and kept me really interested. So I think today was good. I appreciate it.
Awesome.